A track editor is the best thing that Playground Games could add to Forza Horizon 4, and I'm going to tell you why. First off, I wanted to apologize because I'm coming off of the end of a cold, so if I cough or sniff or if my voice sounds a little weird, that's why. So I talked about this a little bit in my video where I was talking about things I wanted added into Forza Horizon 4, but I wanted to make a video separate about this one because I feel really strongly about this one and I've really wanted this for a long time in these games. I'm gonna start off by talking about the two types of games when it comes to track editors, or the two types of racing games when it comes to track editors. First off, you have the games that don't really touch the idea at all. Like you have your Gran Turismos and your Forza Motorsports and that sort of thing, where they pretty much purely use standard tracks and nothing else. Or when I say standard tracks, I mean real tracks, real life tracks. Occasionally you'll have games put in fake tracks to either take the place of a track that they don't have rights to, or just because the developers wanted to add a new track. But usually these types of games don't touch it at all. Like in Horizon 3, they started to go a little bit more towards track editing, not really editing the tracks, but more race editing, where in the blueprint editor you could edit the number of laps you can do for a race, and you can edit the weather and that sort of stuff. Nothing really all that big, but things that can impact a race and make it just feel a little bit different. Then you have your other sorts of games that are built entirely around the subject of track editing, like the Trackmania series, where it's all about just building the tracks and posting lap times around the tracks to see who can go around it fastest. And that's really it for the two types of games. There isn't really any middle ground. There's nothing that kind of middles the line between full-blown game aimed at nothing but track editing and games that don't really touch it. I don't get it, because I think track editors are a really cool feature that adds a lot to a game, especially in personalization. That's really the two types of games that you can get when it comes to track editors in racing games. There isn't a whole lot of variation in the department, and I don't understand why. I feel like there should be more games with track editors. The only game that I can really think of that sort of does it completely unofficially, and that's Assetto Corsa, where you can mod in your own tracks. But then you have to know how to use the editing programs for modding, or just how to make a track in a model editing software like Blender or something like that. And that's a much more difficult thing than your average gamer would be able to do, especially on consoles. Especially because mods aren't normally on consoles. As far as I know, the only games that support mods on consoles are Bethesda games right now. And as far as those are concerned, I think that's just Skyrim Special Edition and Fallout 4. So I wanted to talk about my ideas for the track editor itself, the sorts of different race types you would have, and just decoration and that sort of thing. Because I know making a track editor would not be an easy thing for any game company to do. That's a lot of resources put into a game. And when I think about something like this, I almost always go back to thinking about Halo and when they added Forge to the games. That since has become one of the biggest features of the game, if not the biggest feature in Halo 5. And it's all because it allows the community to come up with whatever they want and add it to the game. It's all about making what you want, making it your own thing. And as far as a track editor is concerned, you could do things like make sprint races, circuit races, drag races, drift races. You could do multiples of the same sort of thing. You had different road surfaces like dirt or gravel or snow or tarmac or brick or cobblestone even though that would be terrible to race on. You could do it, and that's sort of the point, just being able to make it what you want. And having a really well fleshed out track editor that allows you to do those sort of things, like add decorations like plants, buildings, dummy vehicles, and people, fencing, just things like that to flesh out the environment, and different environments themselves like mountains, hills, plains, or even just being able to terraform the environment itself to fit whatever you would want it to do. It all adds up to a better overall experience and more customization for the user. I've noticed that in the Horizon games, personalization is becoming more and more important. It wasn't so important in the first game, it became a little more important in the second game. And in the third game, they took some huge steps to make personalization more and more important. I almost feel like the games are becoming like RPGs in a way. They've even got skill trees at this point, which I can't say I've seen in any other racing game. If you asked me 8 years ago if I thought a racing game would make a good RPG, I probably would have said no. Ever since Playground has been making these games, I'm changing my mind on that. I think an RPG racing game could be a really cool thing. And in RPGs, personalization is everything. It is very important to build the world around the player in an RPG. And the more you can do for that, the closer you can get to building the world around the player. Just makes you feel more immersed. It makes you feel more useful in the environment that you have. I feel like this is really the last substantial change, or the last big addition that could be added to the games at this point. I feel like at this point the Horizon games have kind of added everything they can aside from a track editor. I don't know how much more they could add to these games. The blueprint system is already heading in that direction, and I can only see them expanding on it more towards a track editor. And the way I look at it is that this is the last change that would change the way the game itself is viewed, the way it's played even. They're already going in the direction of personalization, like I said, and more in the direction of an RPG. And I think that this is the last major thing that could be done to really improve upon what they've already got. I've got a lot of problems with the tracks that are in Forza Horizon 3 right now, and a lot of problems with the tracks that have been in the past Horizon games. But having a track editor would almost entirely solve the problem. Of course, if you can't share your tracks online, then it wouldn't solve anything. They would need some sort of robust system to share tracks, and maybe like a file browser system or something along the lines of what they've got with the storefront now. But you really need to be able to share your tracks and play them with friends or even just random people online to really get the full experience out of the tracks. Anyways, if I was gonna sum this all up into one sort of thing, it would be that adding a track editor alongside being one of the coolest things that they could add to the games, I think would be the best decision that they could make at this point. It would definitely be the biggest selling feature for the next game, and it would really extend the life of the game itself. And that's why I think that this is the best decision that they could make. But that's all I've got for today. I'm Stormy, and I'll see you later.